Hey guys, this is our 6.5 law of cosine. Well, for the law of cosine, you need to memorize these three formulas. And I mentioned this already in class. So go over it, make sure you know how to memorize it. One way to remember or to memorize this is to look at what you're looking for. It's always matching with the angle. For example, a squared, I will have cosine A. For b squared, I will have cosine B. For c squared, I will have cosine C. Just like these two will match. Here, if you're looking for A, you need to compute the B squared and C squared and also BC here. Or A squared plus C squared and AC. A squared plus B squared and AB. Make sure you memorize this. And how do we use these? These are mainly used for, we use this to find a missing side or missing sides. All these are used to find missing sides. All right, let's do one example. Let's say I give you a triangle, and in the triangle that I give you, I call this one, that's example one. Let's say this is 388. This one is 212. I call this angle, the measure of this angle is 82.4. That's in degrees. And my goal is to find x, which is this side. Well, let's go ahead and find x. To find x, I will go ahead and find the relationship between x and the given sides or angle. Well, this is a side angle side, and all side angle sides are unique triangles. So the value of x is unique. To find that value of x, I will start by saying x squared is equal to 388 squared plus 212 squared, meaning the squares of the other two sides, minus 2 times 388 times 212, multiplied by the cosine of the angle in between 388 and 212, which is 82.4. Of course, that's in degrees. You will plug this into your calculator, and your answer should be x is approximately equal to 416.81. Make sure you use the square root once you plug this into your calculator, because once you type it in, you will get the value of x squared and find the square root of that value. Note that it's a side, so you cannot say plus or minus here, because the negative will not be possible. A length cannot be negative. All right, here's the different example. That's my example 2. This time, I will give you a triangle XYZ. And in my triangle XYZ, I need this to be 8, 5, and 12. My goal here is to find the measure of angle X, measure of angle Y, and the measure of angle Z. Let's go ahead and start with the measure of angle X. So I will say, to find the measure of angle X, note that the angle X will be related to the X squared. So if I start by looking for X squared, I will have angle X involved. X squared is therefore equal to Y squared plus Z squared minus 2 times XZ, cosine of angle X. This X is an angle. Let me go ahead and show you. This X here is my angle. It's the same thing as this angle. Same thing as this that I'm looking for. All right. Let's go back and continue. I will plug in the values now. So I will say x squared, which is 5 squared, is equal to y squared, which is 8 squared, plus 12 squared, minus 2 times 8 times 12 times the cosine of x. Note that once again, this x is an angle. Well, I'm not going to use my calculator at this point. I will go ahead and rewrite and use my calculator all the way till the end. So if I move all this to this side, I will have 5 squared minus 8 squared minus 12 squared is equal to negative 2 times 8 times 12 cosine of x. Well, I can divide everything by negative 2 times 8 times 12 by negative 2 times 8 times 12, and I would end up with cosine of x is equal to 5 squared minus 8 squared minus 12 squared over negative 2 times 8 times 12. And because we are so familiar with this type of expression, I can tell you that x is equal to the cosine inverse of that same expression, which is 5 squared minus 8 squared minus 12 squared over negative 2 times 8 times 12. Using your calculator, you will find that x is approximately equal to, let's call it a measure of angle x instead of just x. Measure of angle x is approximately equal to 17.612 degrees. So this is measure of angle x. Why don't we do the same thing this time for angle, a different angle? So how will you pick y? So I will say y squared is equal to, just like we did previously, that will be x squared plus z squared minus 2 times, here it was y, big mistake, yz, 2 times x z cosine of y. Well, I will try to figure it out, the measure of angle y. Since I solved this, I kind of see what it's going to be. So measure of angle y is equal to the cosine inverse of my 5 squared here would be the y squared. So y squared here is 8 squared minus these two, that will be x squared and z squared, which would be 5 squared and 12 squared over negative 2 again times, and on the bottom I will have 5 times 12. Using your calculator, you will end up with measure of angle y is approximately equal to 28.955 degrees. Well, if I have x and y, the measure of angle z is nothing other than 180 minus the sum of the other two. So I don't suggest that you go over and do the whole process again. So the measure of angle z will be approximately equal to 133.433. Note that to find measure of angle z, all I did was 180 minus measure of angle x and minus the measure of angle y. That's how I got the measure of angle z. All right, let's go ahead and do one last example. Let's do one last example, and I will, for the last example, or example number 3, I will have this. I will first start by having a triangle again, but this time we will be looking for the area. So to find the area of a triangle, let's call any triangle. We know that A is equal to base times height over 2. Well, the new formula is this. The area of a triangle is equal to 1/2 of base BC sine of A. This is a formula that I want you to memorize instead of half base times height over 2. This one is obvious because sine of 90 degrees is 1. That's why 1/2 base times height over 1/2 base times height was just base times height over 2, because in a right triangle the sine is 1. But now that you have this, you should understand that it is also similar. You can have B is equal to 1/2 of, instead of BC, I can say AC sine B. Or I can have, I put B here, it's still A. It's the same area. And A is also equal to capital A here, or cursive A is the area. I can also say 1/2 instead of AC or BC. I can say BC here, and sine therefore of angle between B and C will be A. Oh, I wrote this again. So instead of that, instead of BC, you can have BA. And if you have BC, this angle is C. All right, one last thing for the number 3. So let's go ahead and find the area of a triangle XYZ, or let's do the one in number 2. In problem number 2, we start with this, where this is X, this is Y and Z, where I stick with X. I know that this is 8, and I know that this is 12. So to find, and we know that the angle because we calculate it. We know that this angle was approximately 17.612 degrees. All right, so I will say A is therefore equal to, because I'm using this X, I will say 1/2 of 8 times 12 times the sine of 17.612. Let me make sure that I wrote the correct angle. Yes, 17.612. So at this point, you just plug into your calculator, and you get the area is approximately 14.523, and this is in square units, or unit square.